Glenn, have you or somebody in your department done anything on tablet research that you can talk about?
Sure, we have. I think this is all kind of nascent research. And part of the problem with doing research is that there are so few people that have a tablet. We've heard various estimates, so maybe 1 in 20 is kind of the high watermark on the estimate of U.S. tablet penetration. And I think what happens with these new technologies a lot is that people become really interested in them because they themselves have the behaviors. So if you go back to DVR research, when TiVo first came out, if you had asked the average person on the street, they probably wouldn't even know what TiVo was. But if you went to an industry conference, there would have been an enormous show of hands of people that had a TiVo. And I think that, particularly at ad agencies, people said, well, if everybody starts watching TV like I am, then I'm out of a job. So there sort of becomes this disproportionate interest in the behavior. The research is kind of hard to do because, again, the penetration is very small, so the incidence level is really low. And it's very nascent behavior, so people are sort of still figuring out, what the tablet means. ESPN likes to be on the cutting edge of all these sorts of behaviors, appropriately enough, because sports fans tend to be high-income individuals and high-technology individuals who tend to be early adopters of this sort of technology. And with our Watch ESPN app, we're there. We're providing people with streaming video of ESPN, and we're really just starting to take a look at this. We think it has a lot of promise. Nothing that we've done in cross-platform research indicates that this is subtractive from our TV audiences. It's everything that we've looked at, all of this increasing penetration of ESPN on all these different devices and all these different platforms is taking place at a time when ESPN last year achieved its highest ratings ever. So clearly this is not cannibalistic. We are simply adding to people's consumption of the brand on all these different platforms.
Is there anything that's come out of your recent research that really surprised you?
I think all of our surprises were early days sort of thing. I think the fundamental questions that we started cutting at, such as, convergence and cannibalism and that sort of thing, I think we got over our early surprises at that point. So the first time we put the chart together and said, oh, look at this, people who watch a lot of TV are also using the internet a lot. I think that was sort of the, the aha moments that we had early on. I think we've gotten past the aha thing to some extent. Barbara Singer, I think, is having a lot more aha moments at this stage of the game because she's doing a lot of interesting research on consonance between different kinds of media. She's done some interesting work with the World Cup on handheld media, so she finds, for example, that mobile devices and print are driving some of the same elements in advertising effect. She would really be the one to speak to about that. So she's really more on the cutting edge, I think, at this point than the work that I'm doing. We're really down the road a ways on the audience piece, and as I mentioned earlier, we're sort of thinking about, okay, so we've learned all this stuff. We kind of learned what works and where the holes need to be filled in. We have a good sense whenever we speak to a research provider about a thing that they would like to do, about where the pitfalls are likely to be, and what things they might want to watch out for, and we know the right questions to ask. And at this point, we are looking for that moment where the whole thing sort of coalesces around, here's some single source things that really work. We're big believers in hub and fusion. If you're going to have a fusion, probably it's best to have some sort of a hub to work on to really understand, again, how the circles overlap properly. And I think we're much further along than we were, 4 years ago, say. And I think, again, that we understand a lot of, when we're looking at a new provider, looking at a new data set, I think we understand a lot of what it is that what we're looking for. We understand how to lay the data out. And it rarely happens that we pull something together and say, wow, that's completely unexpected. I think the 7 principles provide a good underpinning for all this. There are people who, we investigate every one of them every time, but so far, they've they've proven to be a good basis for investigation.
And how has your research been received externally, like at the ad agencies?
I think that things are going really, really well. And I give Artie Bulkern a lot of credit for a light bulb moment where I asked a question in a meeting. I said, if we're doing all this great work, how come we're not more famous? And Artie had the thought, well, what we need is a branded initiative. So he thought up the idea of this umbrella initiative of ESPN XP, XP for cross-platform, and had a logo designed and executed. And so we then proceeded under the ESPN XP umbrella. And once we announced it at the ARF, we originally announced it in March of 2010, we really got a lot of traction at that point. So, we announced the XP initiative. We announced that we were going to be working on the World Cup. Barbara Singer worked to get some advertisers on board and has really spent a lot of time in the past year, maybe year and a half at this point, traveling from advertiser to advertiser, from agency to agencies, talking about the research, sharing results that were not only the general findings of the research, but specific to each one of the advertisers, and getting just a tremendous reception for that. And so she's getting good reception from the ones we have worked with, and is apparently also getting a lot of inquiry from ones we haven't had the chance to work with yet. And I think that we're finding out some great stuff. I think she's starting to coalesce around some principles of how advertising works best. But again, I think a lot of this is particular to the advertiser, in particular the campaign, and to their objectives. One of the things generally is that one size does not fit all. You can talk about media mix, but the fact is it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, the ideal mix for your brand and your specific campaign.